So the next thing that we are going to be talking about is the French administration and how the French army kind of worked really closely with them. So while the French army worked pretty closely with the French administration, this intensified its efforts throughout 1956, while the government moved those suspected of FLN affiliation into prisons. The army used paratroopers and the foreign legionnaires used helicopters to go into remote areas to take out any of the FLN fighters that they thought might be there. And the French government didn't want to admit it, but they knew that Algeria was really slipping from their grasp and that independence for them was pretty imminent. And the situation in Algeria was really getting out of control. By 1956, France had committed more than 400,000 troops into Algeria. And the French army consumed an important role in actually the Algerian government with their SAS, which is their Special Administration Section, which was created in 1955. The SAS's mission was to establish contact with the Muslim population and weaken nationalist influence in the rural areas by asserting the French presence there. SAS officers called Kepis Blue, which were the blue caps, also recruited and trained bands of loyal Muslim irregulars known as the Harkis. So the French army really worked together with the Algerian government. And I think that what is really important to realize is that the French government is really starting to wear thin, and they're realizing that they really can't go much further with this war because they're really breaking down, and everything is sort of just falling apart, and they're not as strong as they once were, and they're beginning to realize that their efforts are a little too futile because they're losing, so many people for a cause that they know is just getting out of control. And they're realizing that sooner or later Algeria really is going to gain their independence, and that there's really no point in going on fighting the way they are because the effort seems sort of pointless at a point. And so to really reiterate the fact of how important guerrilla warfare was, to just sort of wrap up this whole situation. Guerrilla warfare is this tactic where if you don't lose, you win. And they're infiltrating these people into the society, and they're not really knowing they're there. So it's a really effective tactic of warfare, and one that was widely used in the Algerian War. And so one of the main reasons why the Algerians beat the French army is because the Algerians wouldn't give up. They just kept going and going and fighting very hard and very long. And, the way they were fighting was so brutal and intense with, tortures and kidnappings and torture on both sides, not just Algeria, but in France too, which really sparked a lot of debate that is still going on today about the morals of it all, and the morality of how necessary it really all was to be so brutal on what was mostly civilians, which is really interesting to point out. This entire conflict seemed to be rather, when it came to a point, kind of pointless because of so many lives getting lost that weren't really on either side of the armies. And so the French government and the French army sort of just really gave up after a while, and realized that it wasn't worth the fight and losing so many people. And so they really came to realize that. And And that's kind of when everything just sort of it settled down, and primarily probably why the Algerian government did win their independence in the end. So thank you so much for your time.